All right, here they come.
Everyone, I'm seeing 11 so far.
Looks like Bobby is in the way, is joining. He's on his way.
Good. I see Josh
Someone,
joined. He must have got negative pressure or he's got somebody else working on it.
we have someone listed as Zoom user. Who would that be?
Vernon.
Okay. Thank you for that. Is everybody who is in the waiting room in? Okay.
Yeah, we've admitted everybody who's tried to join. So if we want to get started, I'll keep an eye on that waiting room. And if there's anybody late, I'll let them in.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. So we can go ahead and start the presentation, I believe. If you do have a camera, that we'll go through the rules in a minute, but that is one of our rules. If you do have a camera, let's go ahead and cut them on while she's getting the presentation. Okay, so welcome to the Situational Judgment and Critical Thinking in Healthcare Facilities Management course. Again, I'm Ken Mowry, Director of Engineering for the Triad region. As we were working through this, there's nary a day that goes by that some of this doesn't come into play in our leadership roles. So looking forward to discussing with and sharing some ideas. And this is going to be two-way communication um, about this topic. So Dave, you want to do your
Yeah,
introduction?
and so I'm glad everybody was able to join. So David Belligani, Director of Facilities here in the coastal region. And so this is an interesting topic. And with over so I'm right at my, let's see, this would be 39 years in healthcare. And so a lot of different organizations, a lot of life's lessons, and a lot of different areas and things. And so, and a lot of different jobs. And so with that, there has been so many things that you learn about. And so, when it comes to like a hospital and how it operates and a lot of the things that are kind of people just don't know always, you learn those over time. So it gives a lot of insight and about how to look at things and how to go about it. So looking forward to going through this little training course.
Hey, we always start with our calls. Why don't we get someone, just because you're first in my little blocks here. Luke, would you mind reading the call's statement, just that first statement there?
Our cause, we create a healthier future and being remarkable experiences and bringing remarkable experiences to life.
Excellent, thank you. So within that, we have discover, empower, thrive together. My, as I was looking through this again, I think this class would probably work more towards the discover piece, where we consistently seek to innovate, courageously transform ourselves, and find new ways to add value for our patients, communities, and one another. Um, they're all important, but I think that is the one that most specifically applies to this course today.
All right, so just real quick, let's just go over some of the rules on this. So keep cameras on during the virtual session. Actively participate in group activities. You know what? The better engagement, the more we'll get out of this class. And then let's see. And then there's I think we'll learn this, but you can actually raise your hand in on video. Also, there's a way to select raise your hand. So if you know how to do that, that's one thing that we'll do. Engage respectively. So we would like to hear everybody, so don't overtalk. And we really want everybody to be able to have a say if they so want one. And other than that, we will take breaks as needed. I think there'll be one in this session, so I hope everybody enjoys.
Okay, our course learning objectives. One of the slides that we'll actually read. We are going to learn to differentiate between facts, opinions, and assumptions in some scenarios that we're going to throw at you. After we talk through a topic, we'll have a few scenarios, and we'll do both large group and small group scenario within this course. We're going to apply questioning techniques such as what else could be true to challenge any of the surface level explanations that come through in some of these scenarios and others that'll come up during discussion. We will analyze incomplete or conflicting information to identify potential risk and look for alternative explanations. And we'll demonstrate how to guide teams in probing beyond first impressions, and we'll reinforce a culture of critical thinking and thoughtful decision making.
All right, so just to kind of get started here, this is going to be just a quick situational judgment and critical thinking. So just going through this, there's a difference. So situational judgment is about making the best possible decision in real world scenarios when the right answer always isn't obvious. And critical thinking involves questioning assumptions, evaluating evidence, and then the reasoning through alternatives. So, and a quick note to that for critical thinking is that is one of the safety behaviors that is questioning with attitude. So anyway, that just a kind of a note on that.
We're going to see a little video here, and we'll get partway through it, and then there's going to be a numerical answer we're looking for. How many passes does the team in white make? And those instructions will be within the video. And then Olivia's going to pause it for a second, and we'll take a little survey, see who comes up with what answer. And then she'll continue the video after that. So you can go ahead and start that.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
Okay. I'm okay in this one instance for just shouting out as you how many passes?
13.
I got
13.
Counted 13.
I had 12.
13.
I had 12.
12 as well.
We've got a few 12s. It seems like the majority 13. Let's see what we find out here, and then pause immediately after
The answer is 13.
Yeah.
But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Let's pause there a second. Did anybody see a moonwalking bear in this video?
No.
I did not.
No.
You did not see an obvious moonwalking bear go through this video.
No.
All right, let's take a peek there, Olivia.
Go!
We had this video years ago, came across in one of our first do no harm training sessions, and I thought it would be appropriate for this class. So you can go ahead to the next slide.
All right, so interesting. Selective perception. I think that selective hearing has a lot to have the same qualities that I think we're all pretty familiar with that term. So, anyways, just kind of going through this. If you miss the moonwalking bear, you experience selective perception, which is an unconscious filtering. Most of us experience selective perception regularly, and we can overlook important clues happening right in front of us. And so when this comes to relating to our work environment, though, these are things that maybe we notice or we're not paying attention to. Things that we might not think they're important, or it just doesn't occur to us. But some of these examples would be an unusually irate coworker. Is she concerned her ideas aren't being recognized or heard? A child who drops hints but walks away unheard. Is he feeling outside pressure? He doesn't know how to handle it. A manager who talks about you and I instead of using we or us. Words are very powerful. People select words, very intentionally. A store clerk who seems distracted. Is she dealing with something stressful outside of work? You don't know. You don't know the why to a lot of things. And so when you can kind of call it reading a room, or you can call it, just being very astute to your surroundings. But there's a lot of different variables that you're gonna that you should pay attention to, because they're valuable to be able to understand.
Sorry, that's me. So I'm going to go ahead and, or we're going to go ahead and have a large group discussion about this question. So what does situational awareness look like in construction facility services? So I'm going to stop share so we can see each other, and I'll share again in a second. But please, raise your hand, or Ken and Dave, y'all can decide if we just want to popcorn it. But what does situational awareness look like in construction and facility services? Takers?
And so remember,
Yeah.
situational awareness is like well, let's see how to best to describe that. It is making the best possible decision kind of on an observation, say.
So maybe something that comes up out of the ordinary and you're noticing.
Watch what's going on so you know what you need to do. How much material you have, how quick you're running out of it, and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think that could be a great idea of noticing something and then taking action on it. Sheena.
Oh, sorry, we got some feedback. Cut it down, Chris. You got it. Sorry about that. We got Chris in here too. I would say, like, if we're going out on a job site or something like that, and we're looking for one thing in particular, I'll just say, for instance, with me doing fire alarm, if I'm walking down the hallway and I'm looking for smoke detectors and deficiencies, but I see like a wet ceiling tile and there's a leak, then there's a situation and I need to be aware of it so I can, tell it to somebody else, maybe.
What about from a maybe a safety perspective?
Well, like a wet floor,
Mm-hmm.
a slip hazard.
understanding whenever you're going into a mechanical room, that it might be loud and you have to be situationally aware that you need earplugs while entering.
Yeah, thank you
I
for those
would say,
examples.
walking down the hallway and making sure that the pull spacing for the fire alarm is still on the wall.
I don't know, every facility doesn't have behavioral health, but that's a big one for us is that, a lot of times you go into a unit to do work and keeping track of your tools and making sure your cart's positioned in the right place and that the door's shutting and locking behind you is not as critical, but on certain areas, from a safety perspective, that's like mission critical. So your situational awareness of the types of patients and team members and how sick or their specific needs are an important situational awareness to maintain.
These are all really great examples. Thank y'all for sharing. Would anybody else like to share their thought?
I would think like if you had a facilities issue and you had to get to it within a ongoing construction site, the thing that you would have to think about prior to going in, because it's just not norm. Going into the normal part of the hospital, you have to abide by the job site rules, regulations, safety, and coordination.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, ready to keep going?
A lot of good examples, and to take that just a step forward, that some of the things that you see, like I think Sheena mentioned something about a stained ceiling tile. So, as you're walking through a hallway, even if you're going from, just going from one place to another, not necessarily specifically they're working on a job, you may get a whiff of something, a faint odor. You might feel some vibration in the floor or be aware of some vibration above the ceiling. As we pointed out, is tile. Or you might see where somebody has done a little workaround on something. All of that, pretty insignificant, and most unaware people, situationally unaware people, wouldn't really catch that or think anything about it, but that could mean something bigger is happening. A stained ceiling tile that has a wet spot in the middle of it, you may ignore it. You come back through that area again 20 minutes later, and you hopefully notice that the stain is a little bit bigger. The wet spot's a little bit bigger. That could be an indication something's about to blow up there, potentially. So that's kind of some of the things that situational awareness encompasses within our day-to-day activities. So observation is more than seeing, it's really paying attention with intention, and what might these small changes mean, and look at these as opportunities rather than inconveniences. Think about this sort of like self-identified work orders. And, we actually get measured on that. So you're going through, you see something, you need to go ahead and take care of it. Same thing and I keep coming back to the wet ceiling tile, but a wet ceiling tile doesn't mean you change the ceiling tile and the job is done. Something caused that ceiling tile to get wet, so you go above the ceiling and you find out the source of the leak, make those repairs or get the help you need to make those repairs. Then it's time to replace the ceiling tile.
Okay, so taking it just a couple more examples here. So noticing changes in system spaces and team behavior. So, let's just go through this real quick. What is the equipment telling us? So a generator takes too long to transfer a load during monthly tests. A chilled water pump shows slight vibration. A chiller becomes or begins starting and stopping more frequently than normal. And infrared scans show several hot steam traps. So that's an example of systems as far as they're operational and they're kind of an indicator that something is not right. So in a space, it could be things like a patient room on a certain floor consistently run warmer than the set point. You might have a faint burning smell in a mechanical space and or condensation on window glass. You know, you could have some pressurization problems. There's it just these are spaces that are have that issue, and then rattling and vibrations are a good one as well too. So usually a good indicator that you got a problem, and generally it has something to do with your HVAC system, but these are very good indicators. Then behavior, kind of like we talked about already, was the well, we didn't really talk about this specifically, but you know, people sometimes repeatedly silence alarms without really, you know they don't really know what happened. It just became it's like a habit. Oh, that always happens, so you hit the silence on the alarm, and so you know that's not a habit that you would want to get into or have people do. But they do. A lot of people do that because those noises are very irritating up on the floor when you're trying to when you're trying to do patient care and you got other things going on. These are very normal activities from other teams. And so wedging cardboard in an AHU filter track to hold it tight, you know, these are things I'm sure that we've seen before. And then or not logging certain things that we see because we think that people don't want to know about them. So these are just kind of examples of uh, of these behaviors and some things that you will see or can see or have seen.
So as we're observing, we need to be careful with hidden assumptions. So we've got a scenario here that we'll run through quickly. So during physical environment rounding, supervisor notices the pressure monitor outside an airborne infectious isolation room is flashing red intermittently. Sees a nurse on the unit. Nurse says, "Don't worry, it always does that when the door is open." Inside the room, however, the patient reports feeling some drafts, but the room is pretty much normal as far as temperature goes. It just feels drafty to the patient. So later in the week, the technician logs that nursing team members are blocking the bottom of the door with a towel to help with the drafts. That was what they said. The building management system trend shows only occasional pressure dips, which the on-call engineer attributes to the door usage again, the door opening and closing, and doesn't do anything with it, just leaves it unaddressed. So what kind of hidden assumptions are within that?
And so, go ahead.
Yeah, let's use this sort of like a discussion question. What things were assumed in this scenario where a supervisor sees it, nursing is involved, the patient is involved, a technician, and the on-call engineer. They've all got a little piece of this, but there's some assumptions within this that are probably keeping a problem from being fixed. Uh, Anybody got any ideas on some of those assumptions? I see a hand raised.
Yeah, as, you know, especially in the event that this is a critical room, um, you know, it's paramount to keep whatever's in the room in the room. So, yeah, I mean, you need to check the BAS, you need to trend it, you need to see what's going on there. And definitely take care of the draft situation. Whether it means suiting up and, you know, going in the room or not, that, you know, airborne critical disease is going to be a real key point. And you don't want other patients, you know, team members or anything else to, you know, get involved in a bad situation.
Right. more than one person in this scenario assumed that it was because the door opening and closing caused the alarm to come on and off intermittently. It could be, but if you don't follow on through, maybe it's not.
But
There's
even
an assumption that the patient is feeling comfortable, so there's probably nothing wrong with it.
but even the pressure drops or
Mhm.
the pressure dips, assuming that's just to door usage, that in itself tells you there's something wrong.
Mhm.
So
Right,
you're assuming it's because of the door usage.
exactly. We even had a workaround in this one. The nurses just assume that the aberration is a normality, and so they put towels down to keep the draft from coming through the room. Okay.
And so this is just looking at this. So, when you look at this room, this goes back to, you don't see anything wrong. So when you don't have that visual, what could be leading to that failure? And so some of the things that, it could be, the controls are not responding, the fan's not working properly, what, the belts on the unit could be loose, and or there's an actuator on the linkage that might not be operational. There's like a lot of things that can contribute. And so interesting fact, and I'll just share that we had a similar situation where we lost air pressure in a room recently on one of our isolation rooms. And so, it was kind of like, oh, we got a problem. And so we started, you're going to have to shut down the room. We got to get in there. We got to really check this out. So, number one, we didn't really look at it before we went up there. So there was a assumption that, we have to actually get in the room to fix this thing. And so, but so come to find out that the patient actually opened the window in the room, and it was causing the monitor to malfunction, and that was the whole issue. So, you know what? There's always these spins of something different that you're gonna see, or there's never assume anything. Always go look, and that's one of the big mistakes that I think we make a lot of times, is that we do assume, and we will make that call before we even put our eyes on it at times. So just kind of wanted to reiterate that it's a really a valid point, and it happens to everybody.
It does not. I can throw in here too. That's one of my pet peeves is when, say, a technician gets a hot or cold call, or gets a work order for a room temperature. They go to the computer, they make an adjustment or put something in manual mode even. I've seen that happen, and then close the work order and walk away. It could be that damper operator is disconnected. It could be a broken damper, or uh, you know, it could be a wire loose on a valve that's keeping the valve from reacting. So you should never assume that just that the fix you made on the computer is going to take care of the issue in that room. You need to go and also look for any mechanical issues, or at least stay there long enough to see if it has actually changed the conditions of the room, what you did on the computer. So thanks, Dave. I had to throw that in for my pet peeve.
Yeah, thank you. There's
I see
there's lots.
another hand raised again.
Yeah, this was just following up on that situation there. I've been in several times to a room that they, maybe have a heat cool call. Gone up there and checked with the patient. The patient actually says they're fine.
Mhm.
It's the nurses who are putting it in seeing whether they're hot and cold. And so, you know, I have made an adjustment before that turned right into another call because, you know, the call wasn't technically from the patient, it was from a nurse.
Okay.
And it was for their comfort more than the patient. I have seen that multiple times.
Mhm.
I'm gonna raise my hand like this because I don't know how to raise the hand in here. Does anybody actually want to tell us how to do that? Because I've been looking.
It's under reactions at the bottom of the screen. You click on it and it shows recognize hand gestures.
I didn't want to heart anything. I wasn't sure, so I didn't click that one. Got it though. Thank you.
We're going to start talking a little bit about critical thinking. I found this interesting when we first started talking about it, that it's decisions, not the culture, that shapes the organizational climate. Culture seems to be kind of a nefarious thing that's floating out there like a cloud. Nobody really has a good, you can't feel it, you can't touch it and see it, but it's present out there. So when, as a leader, choosing what you prioritize, what you ignore, what you reward, all of that sets the tone for how the organization functions as a whole. So let's say you consistently defer preventive maintenance to protect short-term budgets. What that does in our world, that creates a culture of reactive firefighting. We're told, no, we're not gonna fix those little things, and then all of a sudden something hasn't been taken care of and it breaks. Now we've got an emergency and we have to react to it. That's not a real good type of culture to be in, but that was a culture that was the organizational climate was created by the decisions were made. So conversely, if you make decisions that favor patient safety and reliability, even though it may be inconvenient for some, that helps to reinforce a culture of accountability because we are all here for the patient. So teaching leaders how to view decisions as the DNA of culture empowers them to be more deliberate in shaping the environment that they want.
So this is an interesting one. So healthcare leaders rarely enjoy luxury of perfect data. So like there's nothing perfect about anything that we do, actually. I would say is probably even closer. So, when we're dealing with a failure of some kind, and we are trying to maybe predict. So a lot of us have been in that situation where you might be first on the scene. I'll use an example of say the surgery center. We just did a generator test. We came back on generator, and we are bringing everything back up, and we discover our HVAC did not come back up. We're about an hour and a half from doing cases. And so this is all the data you got. You just know it didn't work. We did a generator test, and this is where we're at. So these decisions are where you kind of go, okay, so you know what, this has either happened before, I kind of know what's going on. And so you can, you kind of make a call of, yeah, we're going to be fine. I don't need to alert anybody. I know we can just bring this back up. And then there's the other hand where it's like, holy moly, you know what? This has never happened before. Darn it. Now, we got cases. This is not going to go well. So when you're trying to use your information that you have and trying to make your best decision, and so who do you involve in that? I mean, you bring the leaders of the facility to kind of in on that. You need to talk through what risks there are. You need to have, it's getting everybody to collaboratively make a decision, and you kind of try to make the best one you can. You're like, hey, you know what? You might have the leader that says, you know what? let's just pause for an hour. We don't want to get, do anything crazy. Let's get this back up, get it stable, and then we'll start. Or they might say, hey, you know what? I'll give you 30 minutes. Tell me if you got it working or not, because we're still go. So those conversations happen. They're fairly high stress conversations generally, and so interesting. I bring this up, and I know that Luke has experienced this firsthand here recently as we were working through some stuff, and you know what, it's just it's part of it. These are some of the things that are very interesting when they go on. Anyway, if you have anything you want to elaborate on that, Luke, you're more than welcome to, but because I think you were right, you were a popular guy out there that day.
Yeah, I mean, it was something that has not kind of happened before, but kind of not. And when it happened, we thought we were okay after I had left, and then we found out that we weren't. And then it was trying to figure out, and then I got to see you having to handle all the higher ups and the communication going back and forth, and patients waiting for surgery to start, and me being the one that had run the test and feeling all that pressure on myself trying to get this back online when I'm not an HVAC guy. And but we got through it and figured it out, and it won't happen again.
Yeah, you did a nice job. Thank you.
So that brings us to our next large group discussion. Thank you, Luke, for starting us off. I'm going to bring us back together to answer if any of you can share examples of when you had to decide without all of the facts. How did you sort through what you knew and what you didn't? So I will drop that in the chat for reference. And then we can practice raising our digital hands if you've got something to share.
Doesn't necessarily have to be
Another question.
work policy, Luke.
I had another one yesterday. So on Monday, went to go do a generator run. When I got there, I noticed that it's a temporary unit that sits outside of a warehouse. So the cables are in a locked fence. And we discovered that somebody had come in and taken all of our cables. And there was a hole in the fence and all that kind of stuff. So we figured out what we were going to do. And, I counted out the cables that were missing, and we got through all those. And then we had power company shut the power off so we could do our work and go turn it back on and realize that there were more cables stolen from the other side and that we're not seeing because they were cut. And it was having to get a hold of the main hospital and see if we had more cables because everything is shut down, and working through the steps and finding out that, you just never know. There's just always something else. But
Any other examples of having to make decisions without having all the information you would have preferred?
I know a lot of times in construction, as a job site superintendent, like compaction tests, concrete slump tests, stuff like that, you don't always have the scientific proof of, well, that's good, that's bad, we got to do this, we got to do that. So a lot of times decisions have to be made on site and do it now.
Kind of having to balance the urgency, right, of got to make a decision
Right.
in a minute. Thank you. Yeah, Alec.
So over at PMC, we had a steam pipe leak. I'm sure Joe is remembering that. It was a heck of a morning. And so we had a major steam leak. and we had to enter the mechanical room where it was, and we had to just start. We didn't have the full knowledge of the situation that was going on, but we had to piece it together, and we had to start shutting off the valves that we were thinking that could lead to the pipe that was in question. And then we shut off the ones that we thought. And then, little to our knowledge, it was fed from both ends. So, not only the end that we were working on, but it was also fed from the opposite side as well. So, we had to then go to the other side of the hospital, get down into a crawl space, crawl about 50 feet, and then finally found a valve to shut off the leak. But that just shows, that just goes to show where you just kind of have to jump into a situation. You have to start making decisions right away to resolve the situation.
Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else like to share? Okay, we will keep going.
Yeah, I ran across a situation one time. We had a big area in the hospital where the lights were flashing, and immediately everybody's wanting to go to the lights to see what the issues are. And when you get a situation like that, you usually have lost a phase. But where have you lost the phase? Have you lost it in the branch panel? Have you lost it in the high voltage panel going to the transformer? And we ended up finding, so it was one of the cutouts on the power pole on utility. So a good sign for everybody to look at if you have something that's abnormal. If you go to the meter, utility meter at the transformer, it will show you a B, and C phase, solid. But if it's flashing, then you've lost that phase.
So kind of troubleshooting, working backwards to until you can take that action. Awesome. Thank y'all for sharing.
We're going to introduce the term here, and you will hear it in more than one class, but we're going to talk about sunk cost fallacy. Everything that we do, and this will lead into it, but we need to know what not to do as much as we need to know what to do. So there are trade-offs for everything that we do, whether it's budget, our labor and time, strategic focus, whatever. If we avoid the hard trade-offs, we can spread our resources too thin. That's just one example. So say we decide if we need to invest in a new backup generator or if we're going to expand a surgical unit. You know, two really good projects, both probably need to be done, but budget wise, we can afford to do one of them. So we make a decision and we decide which one aligns more closely with you know, our mission and the immediate risk. We'll talk about risk several times throughout these too. You need to evaluate your risk as you're making decisions, especially when you're trading something off. So naming and owning the trade-offs, we can help understand why resources are directed one way and not the other. And if you're a transparent leader and you let your teams know that, then that's going to strengthen your trust with the team, and also provide them with some clarity.
So one of these things like Ken's kind of referring to, so avoiding the sunk cost trap. And so this is an interesting one because you know, the one thing that we do is we keep our facility operational. And so that is, you know, like a number one concern, number one priority. When we're out there, man, we're going to make sure we got it working. We're going to keep it working. So when we do things, sometimes you can fall into this sunk cost trap because, hey, you know what? Hey, I just spent, you know, we just spent $35,000 on that boiler repair. Holy cow. You know what? We got, you know, we got all this money that we're putting into it. So we may think, you know, well, we're going to just, we can't go back now. We got to keep pushing forward. We're going to have to make sure, we didn't throw all that money away. And so, but in reality, how it works is, you know what, you have to make those repairs or that judgment or that call at the time to stay operational in order to make a good call or figure out what you need to do. You know, there is a there is a cost of doing business as well. And so I think you'll hear Matt say this too, if you don't in one of his times that you may get to sit down and talk with him or you hear from him, but you know what, he's okay spending money fixing a piece of equipment. There's never a reason not to fix anything. And so, but to the point of this slide, that doesn't mean you're stuck with it. It means, you're living to fight another day. Now you get to make a decision on, okay, is that repair good or do we need to replace this? And you know what, make the plan, get the budget set, you're looking at the dollars, but sometimes that cost of doing business is taking care of our patients and the current situation.
Okay, so we're going to have a small group activity. This slide deck was sent to you this morning from Lindsay. So you'll need that to reference the scenarios in this activity. So I'm going to put you into breakout rooms. Your job, your task is to decide together which direction you would take, knowing there may be no perfect solution, and then also prepare to share your group's decision, focusing on the reasoning and process behind your choice, not just the outcome. So discuss together and then elect a representative for when we come back. Um, these will be the scenarios. So again, you'll want to pull those up from your email so that you can talk about them and reference the questions, because I'll send you into breakout rooms and you won't have the shared screen. So go ahead and pull those up if you don't mind. I will get y'all into breakout rooms. Any questions before I send everybody off? All right. So you'll have about 10 minutes and I'll give a little warning before I bring you back in, but I'll open your rooms and you can go ahead and join. All right. Nice job, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, that going okay?
I think it's going okay from my side. Am I doing all right for you too?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Have we determined who's not here?
I don't have a full list of who should be here, but I will send y'all a list of who is here and who has chimed in and who has not yet chimed in.
Gotcha. Okay.
Make sure I don't send it to the whole group. Okay, so that the top few we haven't heard from yet, and the ones on the bottom with the dashes have shared at some point about something. And I don't know JLM088. I don't know what their name is. And then there was somebody APF016 who joined but then disappeared. So I don't know if they renamed themselves, but I left them on that list.
Your corporate ID.
Yeah, I think we got a way to look that up. I can't.
So I don't know. They may have just renamed themselves once they joined, but I wasn't sure. They just disappeared.
See if I can find that one.
So it looks like when they come back, we'll give each group a chance to share and then we'll go to a break.
Okay. That was JLB.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a JLM 088, but then the one that disappeared was APF 016.
Okay, the JLM 088 is Jeff McMurray,
Jeff.
who was also on video with us, and I thought had his name on it too.
Oh,
Let's see if I can confirm or deny that.
I haven't. There were a lot. Most people have their names in there. Joe was it was a numerical one, but one of y'all named him Joe, so I added his name there.
Okay.
And then I couldn't remember Zoom user. I know they said their name, and I it slipped my mind, but he spoke up at some point.
Yeah,
Vernon, maybe?
yeah, the JLM 088 is Jeff. Let's see if yeah, I'm sorry, I can't remember the Zoom user too.
Resume Zoom recording, and then I think bring them back. Are y'all ready for them?
Sure.
Okay, it may take them up to a minute to get back. We'll see.
You're going to lead the discussion, right?
I can, but please chime in.
Okay,
I'll kind of ask for their feedback, but
So
your response to their feedback, please.
yes, we'll do.
Hello. Welcome back. Are you, which group are y'all?
We are group 1.
Group 1. Okay, we've got group 1 back. Great. Kind of allow y'all to trickle back in. All right, here comes everything. Righty, welcome back. Okay, so you all just spent a little bit of time discussing different scenarios, and we want to hear from you. So we'll just go group by group discussing these scenarios. So when it's your group turn, your representative, please just give us a quick synopsis of the scenario, and then your conversation. So we'll start with group 1. Who would like to represent group 1?
I'll go ahead and do that for us. So our group was given the situation of our budget allows for one major investment per year, and our option is first replacing a generator that still technically passes inspection, but it's unreliable. Our second option is expanding an outpatient clinic wing, and it is going to increase our revenue. So I mean, right off the bat, we all just agreed that we would definitely do option A. It's the safest and smartest way to run a hospital. And our questions were, how should teams weigh compliance risk, patient safety, and financial stability? I mean, really, whenever we're weighing those things, nothing outweighs patient safety. And if we're given a choice between revenue and patient safety, we're always going to choose patient safety. What decision processes were made to ensure transparency and fairness? I mean, once again, whenever you put those two up, it's a no-brainer. You always go for patient safety, and I mean, I feel like transparency is always there, and the fairness would be unfair to choose to put money in our pockets than to keep everyone safe at the hospital. And how would we communicate the chosen path to team members who feel their priorities were not addressed? This is a tricky one. We would let them know that their ideas were not a bad idea, but it's a time and place to expand into an outpatient clinic. And whenever you are running a non-safe area, we want to fix that first, and we don't want to continue down that road. So let's fix our home before we build onto it.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Does anybody have any feedback or questions for group one?
So I have a question. And so I'm just going to say in an observation. So I 100% agree. And being from facilities, I 100% agree, 100% agree. Because you know what, that, you know, these are our kind of important things. And so, but I'll ask you, so there was things that I would consider, you know, how critical is it that you need to have that expansion for revenue for your facility? And when I ask that, I say, so when you consider maybe that, you know, what other options are out there for that generator? So maybe if you have a generator that's maybe not functioning quite right, I wonder if a rental could, you know, do a gap. You know, is it something that, you know, you can figure out how to do from a standpoint of repair and maintenance or rental or something to address it and still be able to do that? Because when it comes right down to it, financially, our facilities need to operate in the green. And so, you know, some of those things are just something to think about, you know, how to look at a problem. There's more than one way to always look at a problem.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That is a very that is a different perspective, and we didn't go in on that side of it, but that does make a lot of sense. Understanding that you do need to be on the green side of your revenue income.
And then, but then I 100% agree. All things being equal, man, I agree. I think you replace that generator all day long.
Yeah.
My question for David would be how long of a rental before you've actually spent the money to buy the generator?
Right. And so that's
So,
a very good question. That has to be part of that conversation.
right.
You know, and maybe that's an agreement that that's the route that you do go through. But we all know that adds up very quickly. Those generators are not inexpensive.
Yeah, but they're 100%
I would
done.
say too, secondly is dealing with the generator is oftentimes some of the contractors are great salesmen and don't want to fix the issue. So they rather put a new one in to boost that revenue. What is the possible bring in a secondary contractor to take a look at it? Sometimes they might be just trying to sell you something.
Right, right. Yeah. So validate your current state. Absolutely. You know, that's a good thing. And then, you know, going back to the, you know, the first question too, you know, about that rental, because, you know, so I've seen it also approached as you can talk to these rental companies and you can actually rent a generator with the intent to purchase also. So maybe you lay off on that purchase right away because you're gonna, you know, you're gonna have to do the rental, but then taking the value of that rental towards that generator. And so I've seen that done before also in order to try to use your money, you know, the best you can.
Yeah, it looks like we've got another hand raised. I think, is that Joe? Is that you?
Yeah, and I mean, really, he kind of covered my point. It's like that one there would really need some assessment from a budget standpoint. Obviously, you know, from the group I'm in, yes, I would automatically lean toward the generator replacement, but renting a generator for as long as, you know, the construction process would take to build a whole new wing, I mean, you're looking at year, 2 years, potentially. You know, there's going to be a serious cost difference there. It would seem that would seem to help make that decision a little easier. But there again, you have to know the budget you're looking at and which one they're going to pull from.
Good point. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on over to group 2. Who will be our group 2 representative?
It's me,
All
Luke. So group 2, IT proposes installing a new smart building platform that integrates all building management systems, alarms, and monitoring into one system. The plant engineering team is concerned that the system has not been tested in healthcare environments and may introduce new vulnerabilities. Leadership is excited about the innovation. So the first question is, how should facility leaders evaluate the risks and the benefits of innovation? Number one, we came up with, can the infrastructure handle it? Is it going to work? Failure is not an option. The resources available, will there be staff training, support from whoever would be installing it, the cost to value. You know, a pro to that would be one building automation system, as somebody said, one password. And then, you know, yeah, that was that for that one. The second one was, what questions need to be asked before committing? What training? Will it integrate into the system? Contractors' ability to perform the work? How long will it take? Are there going to be other issues that are going to arise? Cost, parts, warranty. Are you able to get this stuff, you know, readily available? Question 3 was, how should skepticism be communicated without being seen as resistant to change? We did talk about the last class with communication, the different types of communication, but proving the leadership that it's the right call for the facility. I think different facilities would be more, you know, beneficial than others. Using the right form of communication so that you're not coming off as you're doubtful. I mean, I think we're always doubtful a little bit with something new. So still being able to get proved to, but proving to leadership that it's the right. Another good one that was brought up was, you know, are we able to do a mock-up room where we can actually see it work in action? You know, has this been installed in other facilities or other hospital networks? You know, feedback, evidence. That's what we came up with.
Any thoughts or
I can see the point with the facilities team there. Definitely. I never want to be a beta tester for a new system. You know, what works great in a, you know, a warehouse or a grocery store, may not necessarily work well for healthcare. So I've always been kind of averse to that. We have tried some new things out. You know, pick one facility to test it, and to your point, you know, maybe separate it from the main building system and just do it in a, like you said, like a mock-up arena. And look for any issues that could come up that way. So yeah, good thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that an interesting thought on that too is when you're bringing new systems, you know, part of the IT world is how can, maybe a question to ask would be, can we continue to use the old system and be able to function while we test the new system? And how do we do that?
Thank you. Okay, does anybody else have any final thoughts on group 2? Ready for group 3?
I'm going to help Will out by, Will, do you want to introduce or do you want me to introduce for you?
I got it. Yeah, so our scenario was basically we're caught off guard by a severe ice storm. Um, Travel's dangerous, and lots of people have called out. So we got a skeleton crew with all of the work still to do. And how do you decide which one of those things the team on site should focus on first? Was the first question. And there's a lot of assumptions, I guess, that you would have to make to answer these because it could be answered in a few different ways. We had some good discussion about some proactive steps that we could take probably to avoid being put in this position. And I think our company and department as a whole does a good job of trying to be proactive. But assuming those failed and this was a super quick out of the blue type of situation, we talked a lot about triage and thinking critically about what uh, which direction to work. So we know that if something hasn't failed yet and it could in the future, it's going to be important to be able to get to it safely. And so working your way basically outside the building in would be our group's approach and what we talked about. So making sure things are clear to where you can safely get to um, the infrastructure and really protecting and preserving the resources that you do have. So if someone gets hurt, slips and falls or whatever that's on site actually there, then you're diminishing your resources even further. So that's where we started. And then beyond that, it's just really working through the criticality of the failure. What are the impacts to the patients and the building occupants, and starting with those and working your way through the list. Um, I think it kind of segues a little better to talk about the third question. So, how should leaders communicate expectation and realities to the hospital executives during the storm? I think that's really important to take a moment and just be transparent about the resources that you do have. And I know at least, here where I'm at, and I think this is likely true in most places, healthcare as a whole tends to function as a cohesive team, and people are generally willing to pitch in and help and provide support to each other. And so being transparent about your
I got
diminished resources, it really sets you up for receiving that help and being specific with things that you may be challenged to address, small rooms that you may not be able to get to adjust from a temperature perspective, based on the example provided earlier, could be addressed through clinical staff, getting extra blankets for the patients until you're able to get to it. And so it's not necessarily always just on the engineering team to be able to function as usual if you're down 75% of your resources, but not communicating that you're down 75% of your resources really doesn't allow for that support to come in and help you. So we talked about that. And then for balancing the supporting the team members that made it there versus those who did not is probably the hardest part, because I think human nature is that you're going to cling to and um, be more appreciative of those that were there in the fire, so to speak, with you. Um, I think it's important to celebrate those that were proactive. I would assume that's how they ended up there if it was unsafe for most. But then really it goes back into planning. So what did you learn from this situation? What were your expectations ahead of time? If you had laid out expectations for people to arrive on site the minute that the snowstorm starts and they didn't, then you would probably address that very differently than if you hadn't laid those expectations out. So it's really just leaning into what your processes are, making sure they're strong going forward, but then also making sure that you do celebrate and call out the hard work that the people that were able to make it on site were able to accomplish.
Thank you, Team 3. Any questions or feedback for Team 3? Okay.
Well, good job.
I guess the only thing I would add to that is my daughter said something to me that hit home when he was discussing that. Was she said, "Well, Daddy, it's an app for that." And so a lot of times it's referring to what I call the 5 Ps: proper preparation, prevent poor performance. Is if there's some type of technology available, kind of use it to your advantage and kind of plan for it. Even though some things do happen and it's unexpected, Then two is referring to the emergency preparedness plan if we have one.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. I'm wondering if we can all be back about 2:25. That's about 8 minutes for a quick break. And then you can just mute your mic and camera and everything and then come back around then. Thank you. All right, I think we will go ahead and continue. So if you're nearby your computer, please come back and join us, and we will move ahead.
So decision speed does matter. I know you've all been in situations where you've spent way too much time thinking about something and needed to see some action taken. So over deliberation can be as harmful as underthinking. If you act too quickly, you could make mistakes. If you wait too long, you've got some opportunities missed or some maybe some safety margins vanish. So you've got to be on the lookout for those. Delayed decisions can be really catastrophic, especially in healthcare. If you've got like an emergency evacuation needing to happen, and people are debating how to evacuate or which way to evacuate, or even if you should evacuate, that could prove catastrophic for patients or team members alike. So you're approving temporary systems to maintain patient safety during a power outage. How quickly you need to get things back online for the patients to be safe. So there are some occasions where good enough for now is the right call, and you've got enough information to make an informed decision, and you've evaluated the risks with acting now or delaying that action. And sometimes you're at that point where you just need to go ahead and make that decision and move. So that's the balance that we're talking about, and that helps executives avoid what I call analysis paralysis, where you just endlessly deliberate on something, but you still have to resist those knee-jerk reactions to, I want it fixed now, do it, I don't care. Those situations are just as bad. So got a couple of examples. These are real world examples. So one of our two slow examples actually came from our one of our construction department leaders, Thomasville Health and Wellness Project. This is a project that began in 2016. They were getting most of the funding for this project was coming from the community and from the foundation. 2016, they had somewhat of a plan, and they set the budget about 2 million, which should have covered it at that point. And they started doing their fundraising. So people changed, the scope of the project changed, just lots of changes throughout. It was put on hold for a while. So as the decisions dragged on, the cost rose, and by the time the project was done earlier this year, it just recently opened, a $2 million project had ballooned into $7.5 million. And most of that was due to just waiting and not making a decision to move on. So cost both money and momentum. On the flip side of that, and a little bit of background here, we will go over this in detail when we get to our codes and compliance portion of our training, but due to CMS rules, we use the 2012 version of the Life Safety Code. Within that code, the 2012 version references the 2008 edition of an ASHRAE document that tells us what our temperatures and humidities should be designed for critical spaces. So since that time, there had been interim amendments with the ASHRAE document, and Novant Health as a system had looked at those and thought that they were actually better for patient care, risk assessed through that, and decided that we would, within our policy, change the temperature and humidity requirements based on the interim agreements and the um, updated portions of the ASHRAE documents. We found out during a joint commission survey that that was not allowed, that we had to follow the 2008 version. So luckily that was early enough in the survey that they allowed us to revise that policy within 2 days. We made a lot of assumptions within that. We actually eliminated some departments from that policy just because we knew it would bog down the process, and this is really focused on the surgical areas. So we had a very limited amount of time to really dig into it and make the policy a really good policy. We got through that, and then we spent another almost 3 months after that refining that policy and making it right for all the departments that we left out at the beginning. So there are times when you do have to move that fast. You move with what knowledge you have, and it just depends on the situation.
Okay, so a quick large group discussion. Do any of you have an example of a time when you've had to pick between fast and perfect?
Bypassing the breaker and the VFD, bypassing the VFD on the breaker in order to be able to keep like a fan or something going until it could be, repaired properly.
I had to for a woman's locker room. I had to get a standard motor instead of a separate tank motor for the roof.
And then Luke, you've got your hand up.
About 2 weeks ago, we had a small fire that took out a UPS, and we had to bypass that UPS so that we could get our MRI machine back online until we can figure out the next steps. So
Got another hand raised.
Yes. When we had a water leak on the 5th floor and it ran all the way down to the 3rd floor, best was to try to stop the leak as quickly as possible, and there's no perfect involved in that. Just got to stop the water.
I think it's hard to find perfect in healthcare facilities management.
Yeah, never lie.
All right, we will keep going.
Okay, so just kind of continuing with kind of alignments, decisions, what the mission of the hospital is. And so just kind of walking through how decisions are made and why we do them, and maybe kind of how we document them. So effective leaders not only make sound decisions, but also explain the reasoning behind them. So when we do projects and when we have things that happen, a lot of times there may be, you kick off a project and they're doing a design and say it's we'll just say it's a BHH, the behavioral health. And so, the design happened, 2 years ago when they first kicked this design off. We're a year and a half getting ready to start everything. And then there's new management that comes in, there's turnover at the department. And so I think, probably everybody has had some exposure to how that works when a new leadership group comes in to a unit or a department, and then maybe their thinking isn't quite in line with what happened, what transpired, and how did we get there. And so there's a lot of questions. And so documenting some of that stuff is so important, and to align with the why. And so that those, I think there's been multiple times that, there's been things that have been done that have, there's the questions of, well, now why in the world would we do that? And um, those scenarios, to have that, document to go back to be able to research it, to be able to have those answers is really important. And another thing, that, I think some of the guys here took part of was designing like um, a PPE station that was compliant with ADA regs, and we could put it on a egress corridor, and it complied with everything that needed to be done. So there was a lot of people involved in that. And so, that going through the 4P documentation and using process improvement, and there was all kinds of stuff, all people involved. It went really, really well. And so if there was anybody that had a question afterwards of why did we end up with this? You know what? There was a lot of information, a lot of documentation, and the why was really tied to that. So just kind of bringing that together.
So think about what kind of teams we would have if everybody on the team were practicing critical thinking. So as you develop yours further, it's good to be able to share that knowledge and help others see. This is kind of that a manager or supervisor or technician type scenario, but you could use it with a peer or a coworker too. So if in this example, technician, here's my pet peeve here, resettle an alarm without an investigation. So ask these simple questions. Did you have any assumptions? What evidence do we have? And what's at stake if your assumption is wrong? If we didn't go investigate, could somebody have gotten hurt? Was it a room pressure issue or whatever it was? So I believe all of our teams will work better if we practice critical thinking and pass that along again, not as a leader necessarily to a worker, but team member to team member, peer to peer.
All right. So don't leave money or opportunities on the table. So this is kind of like a how do we think about how we do things? So I'll use an example of the when we do service, when we're um, fixing something, and I'll use a couple of examples. One of them would be more like a piece of imaging equipment. Say the technician's been called, the machine's still kind of working. Those are my favorite. It's working, but it's not working, and you can't have access to it. So you're kind of like, okay, so we're gonna wait. And so sometimes you have to adjust your schedule and your optimum time to do something is when that equipment comes available. It just depends on if it's hard down or not hard down, and just what kind of availability you have there. But you know what? If you're still able to do those diagnostic qualities and they can still perform what they need to, we always try to adjust for the patient. And so a lot of times when we get into these situations where we want to do room refreshes, or we want to get into and we want to, fix something in rooms, and we want to do it in big groups, thinking about how we impact our patient population and what they need for basically for access for patient surgeries and all that. You know, maybe you do one room at a time, you do it over a whole bunch of days, and or you take a couple of rooms and you get, there's different ways to think about it, but there's always the financial impact that comes as one of the priorities as far as how we try to help them coordinate what we do.
So for weighing multiple inputs under constraints, this scenario here is during a winter storm. Facilities loses one of its two chillers. So there's a list of questions here. Some of them regulatory, some of them operational, some of them clinical. So the leader in this would have to analyze and balance the safety and compliance against financial and operational impacts. So it's good to bring other people into that decision making. You know, it could be different. What if this were during a summer thunderstorm? Would your answers potentially be different if the outside weather conditions were hot versus cold? So a lot of things to think about. So an analysis of this is sort of like an emergency department triage. You can't treat everybody at the same time, so you have to triage and figure out what you're going to work on first. So you prioritize. You look at severity, you look at risk, you look at your resources. So we had this happen in a clinic. Again, this was at Thomasville, but they were building a clinic into a space that was already existing. It had a previous purpose, and it was shell space that Novant Health ended up leasing the space. But anyway, as they got into the design of this, they found that it had 3-inch waistlines, and they were getting ready to put an OB clinic into this building. Everybody knew up front that they were going to have problems with waste in that building if they continued the way it was. So there was additional cost. There were different, it's additional time on the schedule to get the building built, but they ended up making the right decision, and they cut out the floors and replaced all the underground plumbing waste lines, upsized it to 4-inch. And what that did was that kept them from having what they knew were going to be some serious future problems, downtime in the building, having to close sections of it, or maybe even the whole building off. So things you have to look at and weigh where you've got multiple inputs coming in at different directions.
Okay, we have another quick small group activity. This time you're going to be in groups of 3, or there's one group of 2. Similarly to earlier, you'll need the slide deck from your email this morning, but similar thing, find the scenario that goes with your group number, discuss it. I think we'll do maybe 4 minutes just because we're short on time. Does that work, Ken? 5 minutes? And then we'll come back and share. So your break rooms are open. Breakout rooms. There we go. It's like we still have some slides to get through.
We do have some slides to get through.
What do we got? We only got 8 left, right?
Yeah, we got
let's
the
see.
hats. I would say on this the last large group discussion, on this one, maybe tell them just to think about it as we go through.
I was gonna say we may yeah, I think it might be better off cutting it. So we've got that one, then the hats, and then another one. So there's 2 more large group discussions. Do you want them to be more independent reflection? And then
I think that is kind of an individual thing, to tell you the truth. And I'm okay with that. I think that's the only way we're gonna make it at 3 o'clock.
I was gonna say it's gonna be tight. Okay, so we've got they'll share, and we can ask them to share very quickly. And then the 2 large group discussions can be more think about this for yourself, but we have to keep moving. Feel free to reach out and discuss amongst yourselves. Okay, sounds good.
When I was going through the slides last night, I was wondering how we were going to fill 2 hours.
It happens, and again, I'm glad that everybody's sharing. They have things to share.
Yeah, I'm sharing more than I usually do.
But I
And
think those are, learning from each other's experiences are so valuable. So I think that's fantastic. Let's see. So I will give them another minute. And then once I close the rooms, it gives them another minute. So that ends up adding up.
I texted Brandon. He said he had trouble getting on. Wanted to
Oh,
know if the class was being recorded where he could review it later.
Being recorded. It should be in just like where all the coursework is, where the homework is. I think it'll be like embedded in that part of the website.
Okay. I'm still marking it as an absence. I I don't want it to become a habit.
Sure, sure. It's like it's early days. We need everybody to come. Um, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and request that they come back. So it'll give them a minute to trickle in. I did not give them a warning this time, but all right, welcome back. In the interest of time, we'll ask each group's representative to share sort of a very quick summary of your conversation so that we can keep going. So can we have a group one representative kind of give a very quick summary of their discussion?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take the reins on that one. So we had a technician quietly mention during rounds that he is noticing more alarms going off for air handler unit than usual, and he has not been accounting for them because they just go off after a little while. And they want to know how we would respond without discouraging honesty while also reinforcing accountability. I feel like this one's very straightforward. I would just be honest with him. I would say it's fine. That's how we've handled it thus far, but from here on out, let's take into account what's happening and not just clear it. But you're okay, and I appreciate your honesty, and thank you just for taking your time out to actually be honest with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Alec. Okay, group two.
I don't know that we named a representative, but I'll go just to be just to get it over with. So ours was that we have an experienced electrician. They like to take on high profile projects because they can do it faster. Newer team members are not getting opportunities to learn, and there's growing resentment. And we were asked how to balance efficiency and mentorship while maintaining team morale. And then we just kind of talked about the importance of kind of elevating that experienced person into a leadership role and explaining that short-term efficiency may be sacrificed by them training and giving other people opportunities to learn. But in the long run, we can get more high-profile projects done if we have more people that are competent to do so, and they're critical in making sure that that can happen by sharing their expertise and giving other people opportunities.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, group two. Group three.
Well, we just discussed how it would, it says during a team safety meeting, junior members stay silent because they don't feel they're being heard. Uh, we come up with several points that maybe take the junior members aside and have kind of a one-on-one with them to reassure them that they're being heard and that they are valued. Also, the senior members can turn that into a teaching moment for the junior members and say, hey, look, this is because of this and this. So it could become a teaching thing and kind of unify the whole team.
Thank you, group three. Group four.
Yeah, we discussed that this seems like an issue you'd probably run into at smaller facilities. Larger facilities normally have a bigger budget to have hardware, especially for doors on hand. So I would imagine smaller places try to cut corners just because you don't have a budget. Maybe you need a new rack for filters in your air handler. Your fire rated doors isn't latching right, but you've bungeed something or you've made it work where it'll latch. I guess the biggest thing we came is just try to coordinate with who's ever doing the budget and said, hey, this is a joint commission or DMV, especially on fire rated doors, that we're going to need this hardware. That's something that you're going to have.
Thank you. And then group five.
Yeah, we were group five, with the younger engineers suggesting a digital dashboard to streamline the maintenance. The senior team members dismissed it as overcomplicating. Tension rises. Um, well, really, you could kind of apply, these other group situations to that. Ours is that, the patient care and experience with the maintenance is going to come first. Even though the digital dashboard may help in the situation, that the younger team member needs to realize that his ideas aren't being overlooked, even though the senior guys feel like it's overcomplicating. There's a point here where the two need to come together. The senior guys with the younger, try to have some common ground met as a group. Senior guys inputting some knowledge to the younger guy, and the older guys being able to accept some new changes that might help if they work the situation correctly.
Good, thank you. Okay, we're gonna keep moving.
All right, so this is just an example of a way of thinking. So, and I'm sure we've all kind of heard the term "it takes a village." Well, and so this kind of goes right along with those thoughts of the six hats basically is framework. It's certain questions that you can ask to look at things from a different perspective, and so it's a good way to approach an idea or a problem and be able to constructively look at that and then ask it from wearing the different hats.
So as we go through these, just kind of think in your head, there's going to be a prompt later for a group discussion that you're really going to be, it's going to be an independent reflection. So keep your strengths in mind over these next few slides.
So the first three are the white, red, and black hats. The white hat being the logical, the facts, the information. This is what is known, or what's needed. The questions that go along with the white hat are what information do we have, what information is missing, and where or how can we get it. The red hat is feelings and intuition. These are your hunches, I think we all got a piece of that. Even I gravitate towards the white hat. I need to know all the facts. But a lot of times there's something inside of me that says, yeah, but this is right. So how do I feel about it? What's my intuition telling me? The black hat represents caution and judgment. The focus here is on the I'm going to call it the negative side. It's not necessarily negative, but what could go wrong? What obstacles stand in our way of completion? Are there any compliance or safety issues that we should arise?
and then continue it on. So yellow hat represent optimism and benefits. So some of the questions that go with that: what are the advantages? How could this work out well? What are long-term gains? Those type of questions. And then a green hat is ideas, possibilities, and innovation. So what new approaches could we try? What's a creative workaround? What's another perspective? And a blue hat, managing and thinking process itself. So, what's the agenda? What's the next step? What's the taking the steps forward? How are we organizing? How are we going to discuss this? So this is just, so those are the six blue or hats that are they were referring to.
Yeah, so you all wear many hats and can swap them as needed, but think about which one comes most naturally to you. You can simmer on that.
So as you're on a team, think about switching hats. This can be done formally or informally. So, a leader or facilitator of a group could say, okay, Ken, I know you're the white hat guy. Why don't you wear the red hat for this portion of our meeting? And it really helps you to turn around and think of things from all different sides, including the gut feelings and emotions and things like that.
So here's a scenario. So overtime scheduling conflicts. So and read this: two engineers on the plant engineering team are clashing over scheduling overtime. One feels they're being unfairly burdened, while the other insists the assignments are reasonable. Tension is building, and the rest of the team is noticing. So going through that scenario with each hat: a white hat, the facts. What is the actual overtime data for each person? Are assignments evenly distributed? Those might be how they look at it. A red hat, maybe a feely touchy person. How do the individuals feel about fairness, recognition, or burnout? Interesting. Black hat is caution. What risk arise if the conflict continues unchecked? Morale, staff turnover, safety problems. Yellow hat benefits. What positives could come from addressing this openly? A better workload balance, stronger trust. Green hat creativity. What new options could we try? Rotating schedules, self-selection. What are some of the alternatives? Blue hat. How should the discussion be structured so both perspectives are heard and solutions agreed on?
So we're going to summarize here with our 5 key takeaways. Effective leaders sharpen observation to detect small signals before they escalate. Remember, be situationally aware. Strong decision making requires separating facts, opinions, and assumptions. That's where you analyze it. Situational judgment means acting responsibly, even if you don't have all the information. Sometimes it's okay to make the decision without completely knowing all of the facts. Every decision involves trade-offs that must be acknowledged and explained. And then leaders strengthen teams by modeling and teaching critical thinking to others, always bringing others up to your level and teaching what you know.
Great. We have a couple of minutes for questions if there are any questions. No? If not, I will remind you that your homework is due in two weeks from today on October 8th. So please make sure to submit that by October 8th. All right. There are no other questions. Thank you all for joining. Nice job today.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Question?
Yeah, I actually have one, Olivia or whoever. I know that on the leadership program website, I was having problems submitting some of the, the work assignments. There was like one portion where, we were supposed to upload like 4 different assignments,
Okay.
but it was only letting me upload 3. So I was kind of questioning that, and in respect to, is that going to be something that we need to just voice and let you guys know about, or?
Please, yes, please make sure that you reach
Okay.
out because we want to make
Yeah, I
sure.
don't know if anyone else had that problem, but I did. So, I mean, I did message Lindsay about. She said that she would take care of it. So,
Okay, perfect.
But I guess as far as the homework assignment, will that open up another portion of the course, because it's
It,
like stuck on that one specific area from where we took class back in last month. So
um, I don't want to misspeak. I'm not 100% sure. But I believe it'll new things will appear based on the date. So like the
okay,
new material should populate once it's available to you. So it
perfect.
should be
Sounds
okay.
good.
But I'm glad you reached out to Lindsay. I was making a note to make sure
Okay.
that
And
you're.
Yeah, I was
the-
I was speaking on behalf of myself, but I'm not sure if everyone else had that problem.
No, that's
But
helpful. Yeah, if
okay,
anybody else has had that problem, please let us know. And if you have any problems in the future, please reach out so that we can get you sorted.
perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Yes.
So I was actually experiencing a little bit of an issue. It could be human error. But I seen the SMART goal form that Lindsay emailed us,
Mhm.
and I was trying to figure out where I upload that to.
I do not have the answer for you right now, but I will follow up. I'll follow up with you and let you know what you're supposed to do with that.
Is,
Alrighty. Would you like me to reach out to Lindsay about it, or just let you do it?
You can, otherwise I'll pass it along for you, because she'll have more of that information.
Alrighty. I can reach out to her via email.
Okay, that works.
All right. Thank you very
and,
much.
Sure.
We have a core team meeting every single Friday. So we should be able to get answers out to everybody based on even individual questions. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank y'all.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You guys have a great day.
Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
See ya.